You are listening to Revenge Rain. Enjoy the story. When I transmigrated into this world, the original host's family was sitting at the dinner table. The mother smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners, and put a piece of meat on my plate. "Anna, guess what meat this is?" I glanced at the empty rabbit cage in the corner of the living room. My heart went cold. I understood everything. I smiled, picked up a rabbit leg with my fingers, and took a bite. "It's rabbit, right?" My parents exchanged a look of shock, but neither said a word. The next day, a large bowl of white, creamy fish soup appeared on the table. The broth was rich and fragrant. My father slurped the soup, praising it endlessly. "Wow, this fish is so fresh. It's incredibly sweet." I smiled, a smile that didn't reach my eyes, and glanced at the large fish tank on the balcony. My dear father had raised that giant arapaima fish for 3 years. Of course, it would taste sweet in a soup. I am a fast-pass mission taker, hopping between worlds to complete tasks. This is my final mission. If I help the original host, Anna, escape her toxic family, I will be revived in the real world. When I opened my eyes, I was greeted by a full spread of food. Steam rose from the dishes, creating a picture of a happy family. But memories flooded my brain instantly. "Anna, honey," the mother said, piling meat onto my plate. "Next month is the SATs. You need to eat more to keep your strength up." "Yes," the father chimed in. "Eat up. You need energy to study." It looked warm and loving. "You'd think Anna didn't need saving." I whispered a thank you. But I knew better. Beneath the calm surface, dark currents were swirling. This family was rot masquerading as fruit. Humans lie, but the system never does. As I ate, I felt the mother's gaze burning into me. When I finished the meat, her eyes lit up with a twisted anticipation. "Anna, guess what meat this is?" I looked at the empty cage. This was Snowball. They promised Anna a pet rabbit if she did well on her exams. She did. Then they reneged, saying it would distract her. She cried for days until they finally relented. Snowball was her only emotional support during the hellish high school years. But as college entrance exams approached, they decided the rabbit was a distraction. In the original timeline, finding out she ate her own pet broke Anna. She failed her exams, fell into depression, dropped out of college, and was trapped in this house forever. Her parents enjoyed controlling her while simultaneously fearing she would leave. But now the story has reset. Under my mother's expectant gaze, I looked up. My smile was bright, but my eyes were dead. "It's rabbit meat, isn't it?" Silence fell over the table. I saw disappointment in her eyes. She wanted tears. She wanted a breakdown. I laughed internally. Did they really think killing her pet would make her study better? Or did they just want to break her spirit? "What's wrong?" I asked innocently. My mother quickly masked her expression. "Nothing, sweetie. Eat more." I nodded. I tore the meat off the bone and ate it with gusto. I even poured the sauce over my rice. When I was done, I wiped my mouth gracefully. Snowball was delicious. I heard them gasp. They stared at me like I was a stranger. They didn't recognize the weak, submissive daughter they had raised. I stood up, beaming. "If there's nothing else, I'm going to school now. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad." I walked out without looking back. As soon as I stepped outside, the system's robotic voice rang in my head. "System, why do you still have to take the SATs in your final mission world?" I shrugged. "Bad luck, I guess." "Wait, aren't you supposed to be hands-off for the final mission? Why are you here?" "System, I was worried you'd be lonely." I smirked. "Emotional support system? Not bad." It was Saturday. Anna's school had classes on Saturdays. Sunday morning was the only free time. But I woke up at 5 a.m. on Sunday. My father was a typical hands-off parent. He ignored my studies unless I failed, then he would scream. But he loved his fish. He had raised a giant arapaima, Goliath, in a custom tank on the balcony for 3 years. He fed it live bait every few days. It was his pride and joy. At 5 a.m., the house was silent. I plunged a knife into the fish's gills. The fish thrashed so hard it almost split the cutting board in two. Blood splattered onto the white tiles, reflecting my emotionless face. I expertly filleted the fish. Ginger, scallions, cooking wine. Soon, a pot of fragrant fish soup was ready. I cleaned up the blood, threw the scales and bones in the trash, and took the garbage out. According to Anna's memories, Dad came home from his Sunday morning walk at 11 a.m., 30 minutes before Mom. I sat on the sofa, doing homework, waiting. At 11 a.m., the door opened. Dad walked in, humming a tune. "Anna, why are you studying so hard? Come eat. Where's your mom?" I smiled. "I don't know. Probably buying spices. Come, let's eat." The fish soup was incredible. Dad drank 3 bowls. "Wow, your mom outdid herself today," he said, stuffing his mouth with white, flaky meat. "This fish is so fresh. The texture is firm and sweet." Just then, Mom walked in. She saw the food on the table and looked confused. "Who cooked this?" Dad froze. "You didn't? Did Anna cook it?" They both looked at me. I nodded. Mom immediately started scolding. "You are a student! Why are you doing housework? Why aren't you studying? You waste time on useless things instead of trying to beat your classmates." Dad joined in, his mouth oily. "We are respectable people. How did we raise such a short-sighted daughter? If you don't study, you'll be useless." I watched them. This was their pattern. 1 minute happy, the next minute attacking me. I remembered a memory from Anna. When she was 16, Dad picked her up from school. He suddenly started driving recklessly, threatening to crash the car and kill them both because she wasn't in the top 3 of her class. "If you're this stupid, you might as well die. I wish you were never born." Later, she found out he had lost $10,000 on the stock market that day. He just used her as a punching bag. But today, I was prepared. I pulled a piece of paper from my bag and slammed it on the table. I smiled so wide it hurt. I ranked first in the class on this week's mock exam. Silence. Mom snatched the paper, scanning it suspiciously. "Did you cheat?" I scoffed. "Cheaters are dogs. I'll rank first next week too. Watch me." I've lived through dozens of lifetimes. I've taken entrance exams more times than they've eaten hot meals. Mom was stunned. She folded the paper carefully and put it in her purse. "Eat quickly. The soup is getting cold," I giggled. "Yes. Fish soup tastes terrible when cold. Drink up, Dad." After lunch, Dad went to the balcony to feed his precious Goliath. I sat in the living room and waited. "Where is my fish?" A scream of pure agony echoed from the balcony. Mom ran out of the kitchen. Dad stormed back in, his face purple with rage. He pointed a shaking finger at me. "I raised that fish for 3 years. You! He was choking on his anger. I slapped my forehead in mock surprise. "Oh, I thought since you guys cooked my rabbit yesterday, pets were for eating in this house. Why didn't you tell me sooner? If I knew, I wouldn't have killed it." I leaned forward, whispering conspiratorially. "You know, Dad, Goliath was strong. I stabbed him 3 times in the head. Blood went everywhere. Drip, drip, drip. The floor was red. It was quite beautiful." Dad roared and ran to the kitchen. I knew exactly what he was doing. He was getting the cleaver. In Anna's memories, whenever she talked back, they would threaten her with a knife. It was their ultimate control tactic. I stood up. I had $200 in my pocket, Anna's savings, and my ID. I ran out the door just as Dad screamed from behind, "If you have the guts, don't ever come back." Mom yelled too, "Let her go. She thinks life is easy. Let her starve on the streets." I didn't go to school. I found a cheap hostel and got a job at a bubble tea shop. After 4 days, my teacher called my parents. I had told the school my parents were drug addicts, forcing me to work to pay their debts. My parents panicked. They only had one child. I was their investment. On the fourth day, at sunset, they showed up at the tea shop with a community mediator. Mom's eyes were red. She screamed like a banshee. "Anna, is this how you repay us for 18 years of raising you? You want to ruin your life? You want to die?" I looked at her calmly. "I'm taking the exam, just not for you." The mediator stepped in. "She's just a rebellious teenager. Come on, Anna. Your mom is crying. Don't be stubborn." I shook the cocktail shaker violently. The ice rattled loudly. "The exam is easy," I said arrogantly. "I don't need to go to class to pass." Mom collapsed on the floor, wailing. "My life is so hard. Why is my daughter like this?" She was crying for herself, not for me. The mediator wiped a tear. "Poor mother. Anna, go home." I watched them perform. It was a classic play. Parents can kill your pet, threaten your life, and it's discipline. But if you leave, you are ungrateful. Eventually, they agreed to my terms. They would leave me alone until the exam. Goliath the fish had long been flushed down the toilet. I returned to school. I ranked first in every mock exam. My parents were ecstatic, bragging to everyone about their genius daughter and their tough love parenting methods. The night before the SATs, the system spoke to me. Its voice sounded sad. "System, you don't remember your real world. Why do you want to go back so badly? What if it's not a good place?" I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. It doesn't matter. It's my past. Without it, I'm incomplete. I am not just a mission taker. I am me. System. I heard a sigh in my head. The SAT results came out. Unsurprisingly, I had the highest score in the entire state. My parents were ecstatic. They threw a massive banquet, inviting every relative and neighbor they could find. Red-faced from alcohol, my father held court, sharing his parenting secrets. "Kids these days are too soft," he bellowed, spilling his wine. "You have to break them to build them. Anna was mediocre until we cooked her rabbit. After that trauma, boom, genius. We call it adversity training." My uncle, listening with jealousy in his eyes, nodded vigorously. "You're right. My daughter Nina is so lazy. I should go home and cook her dog. That will teach her a lesson." I slipped out of the party, disgusted. I had 3 jobs now: tutoring, writing web novels, and building a social media channel. I was preparing for my exit. Then came the battle of the college major. Mom wanted me to study law at Harvard. "You can be a lawyer or a politician." Dad wanted me to study finance at Wharton. "You need to manage money, be a Wall Street shark." They fought every day, screaming matches, breaking dishes. Neither of them asked me what I wanted. Finally, they compromised. "You will study medicine, Johns Hopkins. Be a doctor." I nodded meekly. "Okay." But 15 minutes before the application deadline, I logged into the portal. I deleted pre-med. I selected English literature and creative writing. This was the original Anna's dream. When the acceptance letter arrived, my parents looked at the major listed on the paper. They froze. Dad sat on the sofa, chain smoking, his face dark as a storm cloud. Mom started crying again. "Why did you change it? Why didn't you discuss it with us? Literature? Are you crazy? You want to be poor, you ungrateful brat?" Dad crushed his cigarette. He stood up, veins popping in his neck. "I won't pay for this. You will take a gap year. You will reapply next year for medicine." I smiled coldly. "I am not taking a gap year. I got a full scholarship. I don't need your money." Dad lost it. He raised his hand to slap me across the face. The original Anna was weak. But I have lived through a dozen lifetimes. I know judo. As his hand came down, I stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, used his momentum, and flipped him over my shoulder. Bam! My father, the tyrant of the house, hit the floor face first. I looked down at him and laughed. I laughed until tears came to my eyes. Mom was terrified. She grabbed my sleeve and knelt on the floor. "Anna, What happened to you? You used to be so obedient. We love you. We only have one daughter. Please, just take a gap year. Listen to us. We can be a happy family again." I looked into her eyes. For a second, she looked like a mother who truly loved her child. I realized why the original Anna couldn't escape. The guilt, the manipulation. But I wasn't Anna. I pulled my sleeve from her grip and put a finger to my lips. "Shh, you are not worthy." I packed my bags and left. I spent the summer traveling, fulfilling Anna's bucket list. On the road, the system spoke to me. "System, you seem gentle with the original host's memory." "My mission is to fulfill her wish," I replied. She wanted freedom. During my first year of college, I kept my parents' Facebook accounts unblocked for entertainment. Since I had abandoned them, they decided to replace me. They started pouring all their attention onto my cousin Nina, the daughter of the uncle who wanted to eat the dog. Every week, Mom posted photos. "Taking Nina to Disneyland. She's like the daughter I never had. Bought Nina the new iPhone. She deserves it. Eating lobster with my favorite niece." In the photos, they hugged Nina, beaming with joy. They treated her better than they ever treated Anna. The system sighed. "System, they are giving everything to the niece just to spite you. Doesn't that make you mad?" I laughed. "Why would I be mad? They are investing in a sinking ship. They think Nina will love them? They are buying affection. It never lasts." I was right. A year later, June rolled around. Nina took her SATs. At 4 a.m. on results day, my mother posted a status update. I treated her like my own daughter. Trips, gifts, food. Now she fails her exams, and her parents blame me? They say I distracted her with too much fun? Ungrateful wolves. I finally understand how cold the human heart is. I almost laughed out loud in my dorm room. Nina failed. Her parents blamed my parents for spoiling her. The alliance of vipers had turned on each other. My parents realized that a niece is just a niece, and they had driven away their only successful daughter. I blocked them. The show was over. But they weren't done with me. A week later, they showed up at my university. They looked 10 years older. Their hair was graying. They stood in front of my dorm, wailing and screaming, creating a scene. "My daughter abandoned us. She is heartless. She goes to this fancy school and forgets her parents." A crowd gathered. Students whispered, "Is that true? That's terrible." I walked out. I didn't hide. I pulled out my phone and connected it to a portable projector I used for class. I projected screenshots onto the dorm wall, photos of the dead rabbit, text messages threatening to kill me, the medical report from when Dad beat me, the evidence that they cut off my funding while buying iPhones for my cousin. The crowd went silent. Then the whispers changed. "Oh my God, they killed her pet? They cut her off but funded the cousin? They are monsters." Campus security arrived and escorted them out. I walked them to the main gate. When we were alone, I leaned in close to their ears. "I have a secret for you." My voice was a ghostly whisper. "Your daughter is dead. She died a long time ago. Her body was cold before I got here." They froze. "I am just a wandering soul occupying her corpse. You will never, ever get your daughter back." I stared into my mother's eyes. I saw her pupils tremble. I saw the crack in her delusion. "No," she stammered, shaking. "Anna, stop joking. What are you saying? Mommy is scared." I smiled, shaking her hand off. "Look at me. Do I look anything like the daughter you raised?" I turned around and ran back toward the campus. Behind me, I heard my mother scream, a scream of pure, realized horror. "Anna!" Then, screech, thud, the sound of tires locking, the sickening sound of impact. I stopped. I turned around. My parents were lying in a pool of blood. A delivery truck had swerved, but not fast enough. They had chased after me, blindly running into the road. I stood there frozen. My heart, the original host's heart, felt a sharp, piercing pain. A single warm tear rolled down my cheek. The sunset was as red as blood. I finally understood everything. I took 2 months off to handle the funeral. It wasn't peaceful. My uncle, the one who wanted to eat the dog, showed up with my cousin Nina. They didn't come to mourn, they came to loot. They stood by the graves, arguing that my parents emotionally adopted Nina, so they deserved the inheritance. "They loved Nina more than you," my aunt screamed. "You killed them with your rebellion. The money should go to Nina as compensation." I looked at them in their cheap black suits, eyes hungry for cash. I calmly introduced them to my lawyer. "One more word," I said, "and I will sue you for harassment and emotional distress. The law doesn't care about emotional adoption. It cares about blood." They shut up. They knew they couldn't win. They left, cursing me, calling me a devil, saying my parents deserved to die for raising a monster. I sold the house. I donated 90% of the money to a charity for victims of domestic abuse. I kept the rest as a safety net. When I returned to university, it was autumn. The air was crisp and cold. I sat on the Amtrak train, watching the golden leaves blur past the window. The reflection in the glass looked older, tired, but free. Suddenly, the system spoke. It had been silent for months. "System. Host." I cut it off. "I know everything." The system's robotic voice glitch. "System. Huh? You know?" I nodded slowly, tears welling up in my eyes. "Yes, I know. There was no mission taker. There was no wandering soul." I looked at my reflection. This is the real world, and I am the original Anna. System. The static in my head sounded like a sigh of relief. System. Yes, correct. When a host completes 99 FastPass missions, if they wish to return to their original world to change their fate, their memories of the trauma are temporarily suppressed. You earned this second chance. I wiped my tears. Yes, I am Anna. I was the one who raised Snowball from a tiny white fluff. I promised to protect him, but I ended up eating him. Twice. Once in my first life, and once in this one. I was the girl who failed her exams because of a broken heart. I was the girl who was beaten down until I had no self-esteem left. I was the girl who stood on the roof of that apartment building 5 years ago, looking down at the concrete, and decided to jump. And I was the one who crawled back from hell, hardened by 99 lifetimes of struggle, to save myself. System. Don't cry, host. You did it. You saved her. You saved yourself. I smiled through the tears. System. Actually, I have a surprise. I petitioned the mainframe. Using the points you accumulated over 99 missions, I secured one final reward for you in the real world. My eyes widened. System. You get one wish. Anything. Money? Fame? I can even bring someone back to life. It paused, waiting. Do you want to bring your parents back? To try again? I looked out the window. The rain had started to fall, tapping against the glass. Bring them back? To live in fear again? To wonder if they love me or control me? I shook my head. No. I took a deep breath. I have my wish. System. What is it? My voice was steady, cold, and final. I wish that their souls, wherever they go next, are banned from ever becoming parents again, for eternity. The system was silent for a long moment. I thought I had asked for too much. Then, the familiar ding echoed in my mind. System. Wish granted. Formatting complete. Goodbye, Anna. The voice faded. The presence in my mind vanished. The train slowed down. We had arrived at the station. I stepped onto the platform. The rain had stopped. The clouds parted, and a beam of sunlight hit my face. It was warm. I walked out of the station, leaving the ghosts of my past behind. The storm was finally over. Before we go, please note, this is a fictional story collected and edited by us for entertainment and educational purposes. Our goal is to foster emotional awareness, empathy, and understanding regarding family trauma and self-worth. We have absolutely no intention of promoting hatred, offense, or harm toward any individual or group. The lesson here is profound. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. Anna, or rather, the soul that became Anna, realized that sometimes family is just a word. True family protects you, they don't consume you. Her parents thought they owned her, body and soul. But in the end, the only thing we truly own is our own choices. Anna chose herself. She chose to break the cycle, even if it meant walking away from the people who gave her life. Because giving life doesn't give you the right to destroy it. That is her story. A tragic beginning, but a liberated future. But what about you? If you had the chance to go back in time and change one thing about your relationship with your parents, would you? And if you were offered one wish by the system, what would you ask for? Revenge, wealth, or simply peace? Please leave a comment below, share your story and your point of view. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Revenge Reign so you don't miss the next emotional story of karma and justice. Goodbye and see you next time.